Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 39 Days podcast with Alex and Andrew. I'm Andrew. There's Alex.
Hello.
And tonight we are frustrated. We just saw a double elimination, action-packed episode of Survivor, but so much to be frustrated about, so much to talk about. Alex, what's going on?
Oh my God. I'm so annoyed with everyone on this show. And let's get right into it. Nasir and Evie were voted out. My prediction of Nasir winning is now out the window. I'm okay with that because I think he played a very good game. He, at this point, if he got to the end, I think he had a pretty strong case to win. So I'm okay with
picking
that.
He did kind of shoot his foot off tonight.
He did, we'll get into that. They split into two groups of 5, and in each group, they had a chance to upend the entire hierarchy of power. Every single person that was on the bottom recognized that they had this chance and did nothing with it.
It's frustrating. And look, for one of the two groups, it wasn't for lack of trying. They just didn't have the numbers.
Yeah.
I guess there was an idol that could have been played that could have changed the game, but then that hurt Xander's chances down the road.
Yeah.
On the other side, there was the numbers there, and I get there were advantages. There was a lot. That's the other thing. The Yellow Tribe, quote unquote. Is that wherever it was, the one that had Erica, Nasir, Heather, Shin, and Ricard. Okay. There was a lot of advantages in that tribal. You had Erica had the immunity necklace from winning the challenge. Nasir had a hidden immunity idol. Shan had a hidden immunity idol and an extra vote. So it was dangerous. I get there could have been paranoia, but I agree with you that there was opportunity to completely upend the game, completely shift the power structure, and the people who were scrambling the past few weeks at the bottom and not in the core
had
lines,
a chance. They had a chance to
completely take over, and it's a missed opportunity. And that's why we're so frustrated.
I think we have to start out. Let's start off with the second tribal, which is where Evie was voted out, because I think there's a lot more to talk about with the other one.
Yeah.
So this one was Liana, Deshawn, Danny, Xander, and Evie. And Xander won immunity, which good on him. He really fought and won that, and he deserved that by a mile. And I was happy for him because my immediate reaction was, okay, he can play his idol for Evie now, and which means one of Liana, Deshawn, and Danny are going home, which is...
And what did I message you as soon as they went to commercial right after that? I was like, Liana's toast.
Yeah.
Because they had just shown a clip of Evie and Deshawn saying, like, I'm not going to put your name down. I'm not going to put your name down. And I immediately said to myself, like, yeah, that's BS. But I did wonder, like, if there was some truth to that. Obviously, we know now that there wasn't.
Yeah.
But I agree. There was the opportunity right there. And just...
The thing that kills me, too, is that there was a part where Xander, I think, told Liana, I will, if I need to, I'll play my idol for Evie. So that made me think, okay, he's really thinking big picture here. And he's thinking that Liana needs to go, which he was, because he ended up voting for her. Evie ended up voting for her. And then he was going around and he was talking to Deshawn, who basically said he feels like he's on the outs of the power group and he wants to do something big.
Right. Now, we don't know if that was just lip service to make them feel comfortable or if he genuinely feels that way. But if he does...
I thought he genuinely did, because he really does not like Shan.
We saw them tussling last week, which we were just talking about it 2 or 3 days ago when we did our last episode. But yeah, last week's episode, they made a whole point of talking about they don't communicate well, and Deshawn doesn't feel heard because he says stuff and Shan just bulldozes him, which, spoiler alert, continued tonight on multiple fronts. But I agree, there may have been some truth to him feeling like he was on the outs of that group.
Yeah,
and how do you upend that?
I don't blame him at all, because if you look at every single time Ricard and Shan interact, or anytime Ricard brings an idea to her that happens to disagree with what she's saying, she goes crazy and basically breaks him down until she gets her way.
She
And
really
Deshawn's
playing,
the only person that's called her out on that so far.
Mm-hmm. And look, they showed a clip in next week's episode about him saying, "Hey, look, let's weaken Shan and let's go for Ricard." Dude, you had an opportunity to weaken Shan tonight
by taking out Liana.
And I get it. Maybe it was a safe play. Yeah. So I don't know if they have some secret alliance, Deshawn, Danny, and Liana, the three that survived on that tribe, that they're working like they're the inner three of the Power Five, thinking like at some point we're gonna take Shan and Ricard out. It's just not right now, kind of thing. Like if that's the case, then I will be okay with these moves now. I get you're just getting rid of cannon fodder and you're going to make the big move when you have the opportunity. But if not, and it kind of seemed like Deshawn might be in some trouble next week, like you had a perfect opportunity to make a huge step forward in the game and you completely let it go by the wayside tonight.
And that's, I think, the entire reasoning behind him voting for Evie is he didn't want to make waves and piss off a lot of people that would look at that as him flipping, which would then result in him getting voted out. Which, in that sense, I can understand. I get him not wanting to throw himself under the bus before he has to, especially when he has his closest ally in Danny sitting next to him. Like, if he voted for Liana and got her out with Danny sitting right there being completely blindsided, that's not going to look good for him at all. And that's going to burn bridges with more people than just someone like Shan. That's going to burn bridges with basically everyone he's aligned with.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. If he took out Liana, yeah, sure, it potentially improves his chance because he's breaking down people above him who have more power than him. But with Danny sitting on the bench right next to him, it does send waves like, I'm not with you.
Yeah.
And then immediately, hey, when we're all back together next week at 8, please come and take me out kind of thing. Yeah. I didn't think about it that way. So I am going to reconsider in that it wasn't a total missed opportunity for him because there is that social aspect too that we don't always think about. Like he's thinking about, hey, I want to make this move, but I literally can't.
But it's very hard to stomach that when he has his closest ally in the game sitting 2 inches away from him.
And I think the only way around that is to either just do it and deal with the consequences or talk to Danny beforehand and say, hey, look, I need to make this move. If you're not with me, like, please still work with me after this, but we need to make this move for our own individual game. Like, I know it sucks. I know you don't even have to be on board. You can vote the other way. Like, look, put it this way. If the vote was 3-2 the other direction, Liana knew that Danny was still with her, and that helps him because she's a juror now in that case. And Deshawn could have played that card, but I agree. It is messy.
Yeah. It's very difficult to look at. And, there was such a big opportunity to take out Liana, who's been such a, I don't even know how to describe her. She's been very vocal this season.
She's a little wishy-washy too.
She is.
Especially now that she doesn't have power now.
I believe it was Xander that said she's like a pawn to Shan, which is very true. She has no power, and yet she still does have power because she's with the alliance that Shan's in.
And if she just gets in line, then that's her power right there, and just the influence and the numbers. But I agree that she was there for the taking tonight. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've been frustrated with, not just tonight, but the whole season, and more so tonight because it was the biggest of opportunity to actually do it. If you think about like any, like a job interview, someone tells you you have it in the bag and you go and you just completely bomb the day of.
Yeah.
So it's right there for the taking to take out some big players. And we've seen it week after week after week where it doesn't happen, and it just boiled over tonight. And
exactly. It's so, and honestly, good on them. We'll give credit where credit is due. Nasir and Evie were both very good players this season. I have a lot of respect for both of them. Obviously, I wanted Nasir to win. I liked him from the get-go. I continued to like him because I picked him. And it wasn't just because I picked him and I wanted to win our, bet of who's going to win. I actually genuinely liked him on this season. But the two of them were almost the easy votes. Evie especially, because she's been on the bottom ever since the merge. She's been the number one target for everyone, not because she's just there, but because she's very smart. She knows how to play the game. So good on them for recognizing that and finally getting her out. But the problem we both had is that everyone in this game was so hyper-focused on getting her out, they were completely missing the big picture. And that's the big problem I have with this season, is that everyone is not even paying attention to the big picture.
And more often than not, it just seems like people in the game of Survivor always build up people who aren't exactly true threats and say, oh, they're dangerous. Like, I get Evie was influential. I get she'd get jury votes. But in reality, she talked this big game. She skated by 2 weeks in a row because of advantages won, or a missed opportunity to steal an advantage, and then they did the rope a dope with the the idol, right?
Yeah.
And then she won immunity last week, so she was on the child block 3 weeks in a row, and they finally got her tonight. But in reality, I get she's influential, but I think she also did rub a lot of people the wrong way, and I think there would have been an opportunity to take her out any of the next 4 or 5 tribal councils. So I don't know if she was as dangerous as people made it seem. Like, we certainly liked her, and we thought she was playing a good game, but I don't know if she was unstoppable in a way where, like, they had to get her tonight.
I think it was more along the lines of, once the merge happened, Liana just kind of immediately flipped to go to Shan because she knew that was where the majority was. And they saw the three of them in Xander, Evie, and Tiffany as just, all right, well, I guess those three are on the bottom. They're all decent players. Let's just get them out. Which is essentially what happened, because if you look at the votes since then, it's been 2 of the 3 that have gone home. And the only reason Xander didn't go home both times is because of advantages.
And look, I am so frustrated that the people on the bottom didn't realize they were on the bottom. And I think it's probably most at fault for Erica, Heather, and Nasir, because they came from Luvu. They didn't really have to go to Tribals Foreign. And they had this sense of security that wasn't there. And they're probably most at fault for not realizing the numbers where they were. I think Tiffany, Xander, and Evie kind of knew right away, because they recognized
right off the bat that, okay, we're in trouble here because we're on the bottom.
Right, but look, if you think about it, that Sydney vote at the first one at the merge, the one where Erica was out and came back, right? Like, that was a weird vote, but fine, right? Didn't really draw any lines in the sand. But after that, you had 11 people. You had the Power 5, Shan, Ricard, Danny, Liana, and Deshawn. That's 5. If the other 6 all work together, they could be controlling this game right now. And I get there were some advantages to maneuver, right? Shan still has her idol. She played an extra vote tonight, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which made no sense, but that was still in play. There was some stuff to navigate, right? Oh, and Deshawn had already flushed his extra vote
out in the Sydney vote. Yeah.
So the other 6 had an opportunity to just be like, hey, look, we're all on the bottom. And I think Erica probably felt like, oh, I could still work in the majority a little bit as long as they're not coming for me, because she thought she was on, like, the bottom. But then when people stopped saying her name, there was a sense of security there. Heather never really felt targeted the whole time. And really, they could have flipped the game early on. And I think now it's getting too late.
Yeah, it's definitely too late now. See, the thing that I look at it as, how you said it was 6 versus 5 after the Sydney vote. I think it was, because if you look at the 6, it was Nasir, Heather, Erica, Xander, Evie, Tiffany. And Xander, Evie, and Tiffany kind of just didn't really know what to do. They were scrambling, and nobody really gave them the time of day, because the other 3 were so hyper fixated on their own tribe. They were not playing. And you look at one thing that really got to me today was Nasir just kind of saying, I think he said at one point, his 2 closest allies in the game were Shan and Ricard. Which I don't get, because
and he was so sure that just because Heather threw his name out at the previous trial that she was just public enemy number 1, and let that, and look, good on Shan for maneuvering it that way and steering into the skid, but he got so caught up in this vendetta against Heather that
he completely
allowed
lost
it to
sight of everything else.
His own reality that he was on the wrong side of the numbers.
Yeah.
And look, all he needed to do was play his idol tonight, and Heather's going home, and he's still on the wrong side of the numbers, but at least he survives to the final 8.
I don't think any part of him thought he had to play his idol, though. I think everyone just kind of convinced him.
Well, because everyone was saying, hey, because remember, Erica came to him and said, hey, you should play your idol for Heather, which is funny.
And he immediately just went, no, not happening.
Yeah, and Erica ended up voting for Naseer both times. I don't
blame her. He kind of just shut her down every time.
So I don't know if she was just baiting him when she said you should play your idol for her right from the get-go, or if that was originally the plan.
I don't think she was. I think she was legitimately trying to come up with a plan to get one of Shannon Ricard out. Because you think about it, it was the three of them. It was the three of them sitting together, and Shannon Ricard were off in the water or whatever. And she was saying we should do something big because her and Heather are in alliance, Shannon Ricard are in alliance, Naseer was kind of in between. And Naseer had such a vendetta for Heather that they knew that Heather probably would be the one that Shannon would want to vote for, which, she did. So the thinking behind that, I think, was play the idol for Heather, then we can pick and choose who do we want to get, Shannon or Ricard, which was a good idea on Erica's part. But Naseer, you had to get him on board with it, and he was so against Heather just because she threw his name out, and the argument they had at the beginning of the episode that he wasn't even thinking at all. He was only thinking about himself, which, I understand his gameplay of, I'm looking out for myself, but this episode, like you said earlier, he shot himself in the foot because he was so convinced that he was safe and that he had an idol. He was okay. He wasn't going home. That he wasn't thinking, okay, but what if they actually try and get me out?
Yeah, and what good is an idol if you don't actually use it when you catch votes?
Exactly. So what good? The idol's just a souvenir if you don't use it when you need to.
Right, and credit to everyone else for catching him flat-footed there and saying like he feels so secure that he's not going to play the idol that we need to. Which, by the way, same thing happened in the other vote. Remember, Jeff went around and asked everyone how comfortable they were that their plan was going to work out. Xander didn't play his idol for Evie, which I don't even know if he wanted to, if he would have, but I think he was pretty sure that he didn't need to.
I think him and Evie both thought Deshaun was dead set on voting for Liana. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But let's talk about Shan, because we've been saying all season she's continuing to sit in the catbird seat, and no one either realizes it or no one's willing to take a shot across her nose. But
I think
comes to her.
I think people are just intimidated by her.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be. They should be angered by her. At least if you're wired, someone like me, and someone continually tells you that your opinion doesn't matter, like I
or shutting you down every time you come up with a differing opinion.
When is someone going to be like, the hell with this? Like we got to do something.
Yeah.
Ricard came to her tonight and said, "Hey, look, let's take out Naseer. We got a perfect opportunity." Which, by the way, what he wanted to happen happened, and Shannon immediately was like, "No, I'm too threatened by Heather."
And Naseer, Ricard had good points. Like, he was right. Good on him for doing that. He was saying Heather right now does not make any sense because her only ally in the game was Erica. Naseer is very likable. He doesn't have that many allies, but he also has no enemies at all. He gets to the end. He's
very secure that he won't use the idol.
Exactly. He was a perfect target to take out because he was so safe. He felt so safe that he wasn't going to use it.
Right. And
perfect time to do that.
But Shannon immediately shuts him down and says, "No, we're going to vote out Heather." Bullies him into ultimately voting for Heather. He does the first pass. He did vote for Heather. And then she splits her vote. She uses her extra vote and splits them, which maybe there's got to be maybe some bigger macro view that I'm not seeing. But let's run through all the scenarios. And I don't even know if it protects her in the event that Naseer plays an idol, because look, let's just say she doesn't use it at all, right? She puts her first vote on Naseer. Naseer goes home. Doesn't use it, puts her only vote on Heather. Heather's going home, right? Yeah. Puts both
she
votes
was the
on
swing vote.
Heather.
She was the swing vote there, and instead of choosing, she just split. And she
tied it up.
So here's my thinking. I'm going to say you look at the numbers, it was very easily Erica and Heather were voting for Nasir. I think she knew that. Nasir was voting for Heather. I don't think she had an idea who Ricard was going to be voting for. I think she was on the fence, and she.
But why does it matter? Unless Ricard's going to vote for her.
Because here's the thing: if Ricard voted Heather, and she voted for Nasir, or if Ricard voted for Nasir and flipped on her, and she voted for Heather, then Nasir would have gone home.
I think the only way that makes sense is if Ricard votes for Shan, because then she's got to vote, and then 2 votes are already for Nasir. That's going to get flushed out. She'll throw a third one just in case. That's a majority, right?
Yeah.
Knowing it's going to get flushed out. But then at the absolute worst, Heather catches a second vote. Maybe she goes home 2-1.
Yeah. And maybe it was just an insurance type of thing in case.
But then how is she so insecure with Ricard? The only way that makes sense is if Ricard turns on her.
Yeah.
I don't get it, because look, if she put both votes on Nasir and he plays his idol, Heather got 2. That would still have to go home.
Heather
she put both votes on Heather and Nasir plays his idol. Well, he had the minority and he was wasted his idol. Heather goes home anyway, right? So that's if in the event of an idol gets played.
No, but the thing is, either way, no matter what, if Nasir played his idol, Heather was going home. Right. So wasting your extra vote just to tie it,
right? And if he doesn't use it, which he didn't, splitting it goes to an extra vote, or a revote, which then you control what happens anyway. Yeah. Which by the way, they all flipped because she bullied Ricard into voting Heather the first time, and then they all flipped this year the second time. So I don't know how that was coordinated.
I don't get that either.
And then what if she doesn't split her votes and she goes all votes for Nasir? There's a majority. All votes for Heather. There's a majority there, and you don't even go to a revote.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the end game was, other than like you maybe thinking that they could flush of idol the second. I don't know.
I don't know.
It does not make sense.
It makes no sense at all. I would have understood if. So my immediate reaction, I don't know if I think I said this to you before we started recording, but my immediate reaction was I thought Erica and Heather had voted for Nasir, and Ricard had voted for Nasir, and then Nasir had voted for Heather, and Shan had put 2 votes on Heather, which makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because Shan had been saying, I'm going to use my extra vote here, which would have resulted in her kind of controlling what would have happened. Because she thought, okay, I don't know who's voting for Nasir and who's voting for Heather. If I throw 2 votes on the person I want to go, there's a good chance of her going. But then I remember I was, watching the votes after that, and I was kind of like looking at the corner of my eye just because I was very annoyed at the outcome. And I just noticed, like, wait, Shan voted for both? And then I rewinded it and was like, what happened? What was the plan here? I
don't know. I saw one person on Twitter. I think they're like a Survivor and Big Brother blogger or something like that. They were saying it was a smart move, but I didn't really understand what their end game. The logic they were saying didn't make sense. I forget the tweet,
I don't understand. I don't think it's a smart move, but I don't think it's a dumb move. I just don't understand it at all.
No, and now she doesn't have that extra vote.
Exactly.
And she got her way anyway
for no reason.
Yeah. Like, right. It wasn't like she needed it to swing the vote.
And the thing is too, it's not like this was a pivotal vote. It's not like this was between her or Ricard and Heather. It was Nasir and Heather, someone who she knew had an idol, she knew was a threat, but she just was saying, yeah, Heather's more of a threat.
So maybe she was convinced by Ricard on the beach when he's like, we got to take out Nasir, and then she kind of realized it at the last second. That's why she split, maybe?
I don't know.
Because then they all in unison voted for Nasir on the revote, which Erica and Heather, well, Heather didn't vote because she was one of
Erica and
Erica for sure did, but then
it was the people that were left was Erica, Shan, and Ricard, and they all voted for Nasir. When two of them didn't.
I don't get it. I'm guessing Shan got her second vote for the revote too, right? Not that it mattered, but I think Nasir caught 4 votes on the revote. but
no, there was only 3. There's 5
there was
people.
only 3. He only read 3 votes because 3 was majority.
No. There's only 3 people that voted. Heather and Nasir couldn't vote.
But Shan had the extra vote. Did that carry over to the revote?
No, that doesn't carry over. That only works for the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it wouldn't matter. But I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, but I don't either.
Look, so here's where we're at. We got the final 8 left. We haven't done power rankings in a couple weeks, so
no, we haven't.
Let's tee this up here. I think it's pretty clear. I think we're going to have pretty similar lists, but where do you stack the final 8 players right now?
I think without a doubt Heather's number 8. I don't see any scenario where she wins this.
Okay.
And then number 7, I would probably have to put Deshaun.
Okay.
I
lower than I thought, but okay.
Well, what do you think?
I was thinking Eric and Heather on the bottom, just because they don't have any advantages and they just don't really have many friends.
Yeah.
But I was going to start mixing in the power people towards the bottom. I was thinking Danny and Deshaun are below Xander, just because they seem to be in the power lines, but I don't know if they're going to be the ones that get turned on first. It kind of seems like that might be the case.
Mm-hmm. No, I think Erica and Heather as 7 and 8, I think I can get behind that. And then say Danny 5, Deshaun 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then the top 4, I think in terms of gameplay, you still have to put Shan number 1.
Yeah, for sure.
Shan, I think it would go Shan, Ricard, Xander, Liana.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
Liana, she may get farther than Xander, but Xander's playing really strong right now, and he still has the idol in his pocket.
The thing is
he still the extra vote too?
Yeah, he still has both. And we've been saying a lot. Everyone loves an underdog, and Xander right now is the ultimate underdog because he's the only one left in his original tribe. I guess if you don't include Liana, which I don't because she flipped the second.
Well, yeah, she was technically.
She was on the tribe, but she's not anymore.
Right, but I mean, people flip all the time. That's going to be an interesting debate too. Like which is the first original 3 tribe to get completely snuffed out? Right now, you have the original Luvu still has. If I'm doing my math right,
4. Yeah, because
4.
Sydney and Nasir now are gone. It's Danny, Deshaun, Heather, and
Erica. Right, and then you have Uo,
Shannon
Ricard, and they're still
here. And then Xander and
Liana. Okay. So yeah, that'll be an interesting debate too. That'll be
seen. And then Ricard. I think if Shan for some reason gets voted out, Ricard's winning.
I think he sets himself up really well.
Yeah, I do too.
We've talked about that. Like, I want to see a big move. Like, I don't have anything personally against Shan. I certainly don't like the way she's treating people and the way her game comes off as bullish, but only to an extent where I think it sets her up to be voted out, and it's not happening, right? So if she's doing what she's doing and she gets away with it and she waltzes her way to the ending, then she's
playing better than we think that she can.
Yeah, but sitting at home, I'm watching it happen. I'm thinking, like, how does no one else see this?
Yeah.
How is no one else rubbed the wrong way by her? And even try and make a move for her. Have her play her idol, and you go home. You get screwed by it. But then at least you took a shot, right? No one's even taking shots at her, and then it's going to be too late.
So you know what this reminds me of? Cook Islands. How Yule ended up winning, because you think about that. He got an idol so early on in that season, and he kept that until the end. He never used it. And because of that, he managed to get to the end, because even though he was an underdog that whole entire season, because his little tribe of 4 ended up taking out all the big dogs that season, he used that idol as his form of power, because everyone knew, okay, we can't vote for him. He's just going to use the idol.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the mindset with Shan. It's like everyone knows she has an idol, so they're not even going to try and go after her. Because
but then why can't Xander play the same way? Why can't
he's on the bottom?
Yeah, but you could still play that whole, like, look, go ahead and vote me. I dare you to throw votes at me tonight. I'll just flush it out. And then I got enough people in my corner who are going to vote you out. Like, so let's say it's the 8 next week. If I'm Xander, I'm just saying, hey, look, throw 6 votes at me. I dare you, right?
Yeah.
Me, and I'll work with Eric. I don't care. We're going to put 2 votes on whoever, and you guys all target us. I'm going to play my idol, and then someone you like is going home. Go ahead. I did. And you could play that game, right? Didn't Mike Holloway play that way a bunch? Granted, he found a bunch of.
He found more than one.
Him and Ben both found a ton of idols. Ben more so needed to find them and then play. Ben
found idols in like 4 consecutive episodes.
Yeah, but he needed to keep playing them on himself. Yeah, exactly. That's different. But because he didn't use it as a threat, he definitely used it to survive, to advance, to take out other people.
And I think it's different. Shan's using them as kind of her source of power. People are looking at that and saying she has it's not as she has too much power, we have to get rid of her. It's she has too much power, we can't go after her.
Yeah.
Because think about how many people she has in her pocket. Even if she's not on good terms with Deshaun, she still has Ricard, she still has Liana, she still has Danny. That's half the tribe right there.
Yeah.
So she set herself up really well. But
this is what we said. I think when it was just pre-merge or right after, we're like, look, if you let Shan get to the final 6 or 7 and she still has all the numbers, like there's no stopping her.
No.
And one by one, they've knocked off. 4 people have gone out the last 3 weeks, and it's all people who could have upended the game. I think even Sydney would have been willing to work with someone different.
See, to me, the Sydney vote, I just think they voted her because they didn't know who else to vote.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
But I thought she was pretty tight with Deshaun.
She was tight with that whole Luvu group. And then they just voted for her. I think they just voted for her because they're okay. We need a backup because the Yasa people are so tight. So we can't get rid of Shannon Regard. So who's kind of someone who could be a threat? It's Sydney.
Right.
They voted her out just because of the possibility of her being a threat, not because she actually was.
Yeah.
She was strong in challenges and stuff, but I don't think she was that big of a threat overall because she didn't have like a core alliance. It was just the people she was in the Luvu tribe with.
And half of them immediately flipped anyway.
Exactly.
With Shan. So yeah, that's a good point. All right. Well, look, there's really only one other thing I think we needed to hit on tonight. This week's game within the game. You win a reward challenge, and then you get to bring 1 or 2 or 3 people with you. Do you take people in your alliance? Or do you take people who maybe you want to work with, you need to switch up the game with? And it's a super, super ballsy play. I didn't really think they teased it in next week's episode clip.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting conversation.
And that is, and it seems kind of like an easy question right off the bat. But then you think about it and you're like, okay, so you either annoy everyone in your alliance by picking people that you aren't aligned with, or you just light a fire under the people on the bottom by just taking the people that you knew already.
Yeah, it's a very tightrope to walk because I'm thinking there is a way where you can tell your alliance beforehand, like not that you could know that that's going to be the challenge, but maybe you just have a conversation and say, like, if there's an opportunity in any of the next few reward challenges for us to take someone on in something, like I'm not going to take you, but know that I want to take you. I'm going to bring other people to bring them into our alliance. Or I'm going to bring other people just to
make them to make them safe.
Yeah,
to make them feel safe.
To completely confuse them. Meanwhile, you're going to stay back at camp and you're going to throw some mud around too, and we can just completely. That there is a way you can thread that needle, but I do agree that majority of the time you're thinking, hey, I need to take my alliance to keep them with me so they're not back at camp when I'm not there and scrambling and talking about voting out.
Even if you don't have any gameplay stuff to talk to them about, you don't want to get off on a bad foot with them.
Yeah, and
because immediately that's happened a lot in this show where someone hasn't taken someone they thought that they were close with on a reward, and that's kind of just lit a fire under the person that wasn't taken.
Yeah, the very few times where it happens and no one really bats an eye is if someone hasn't gone on like a single reward or someone's birthday or someone just like really needs food and whatnot.
I would bet a lot of money that mentality is not happening this season because I don't think any one of the 8 people that are left really are.
Everyone's thinking about themselves.
They're and that's actually a really good segue to my big thing about this season is that everyone is so focused on themselves. They're either not looking at the big picture of how am I going to get to the end and take out the people that are in the way of me getting to the end, or they're so focused on the big picture they're not looking, like they're ignoring everything else, which is Shan.
Right. It is. I've said frustrating enough tonight. I just don't know if there's any other word.
No.
In just that everyone is thinking about, hey, how can I get to the end? How can I survive this vote? But then there's no end game as to, hey, if I survive this vote and then next week's vote, what happens when everyone who's coming for me is the only people left and I have nowhere to hide?
Yeah. Like, and that's the problem. It's like, if you can have an alliance of 5 people all you want, but once you get to the final 5 and it's just those 5 people, where do you go? Especially if you're someone like Deshaun. Say it's that final 5 of Ricard, Shan, Danny, Deshaun, Liana. Ricard and Shan are not voting for each other.
Well,
Liana's sticking with...
I don't think.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying in terms of the relationships that they have with everyone.
Yeah.
Liana's sticking with Shan because that's what she does. It would be Danny and Deshaun that would be voted out. So I don't get their mindset right now is they're sticking with the majority, but once the majority is the only thing that's left, they're not in the majority anymore.
Yeah, and every time I think I see a crack in that group, nothing happens. So they kind of teased. Someone says, hey, let's vote for Ricard. And then someone says, hey, let's vote for Deshaun. And you may think, hey, look, that power grouping of 5 is going to implode next week. So, like until it actually happens, I'm not going to believe that there's actually any threats there.
That's a really good point. They've teased kind of the fracture between the Luvu / Shannon Ricard group just breaking apart and kind of splitting off, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
For a while. Like they showed Shannon Ricard kind of arguing. One time they showed, for this one they showed Deshaun and Shan kind of arguing. And, there's only so many times we can get our hopes up before it's not possible anymore.
Right. And there's not even anyone in particular who I'm like, I really want this person to win and that they're getting voted out and all their allies are getting voted out. I just want to see a big move, a big blindside. I want to see the dynamic of the game actually change. And it's not. We're having the same conversations we had episode 2 and 3 and 4 of this podcast. And you shouldn't be so locked into how the season's going to progress that early on. But we kind of, again, they edited it a certain way. And maybe they showed certain people more airtime, certain people were playing well. But look, you go back plenty of seasons. If we were doing podcasts then, I'm sure we would have talked up a big game for people who ended up finishing 8th or 9th early on. And then something happens, right? That's not happening here. And I think that's what's frustrating is that the game hasn't changed since the very beginning. And they're 17 days in now. And I just don't know when the tipping point is going to be, if at all.
It goes back to what I was saying a couple episodes ago, where the thing we love about this show is the chaos. It's when someone big gets voted out that you didn't see coming, and then everything just kind of spirals. And that's this season has been a lot of chaos, but it's been for nothing because it was useless. Like, just think about last week with Heather trying to switch it to Nasir. They still ended up voting Tiffany out. And this week, everyone, Xander and Evie going, okay, we need to get Liana out, going around, just planting the seeds of doubt in everyone's head. They still voted Evie out. So it's just, there's been no unpredictable vote. And we're at the final 8 now. Out of 18, 10 people have been voted out. And none of them have left us just kind of like, wow. Like, Evie and Nasir tonight, I think we both saw it coming. Because both of us, at this point, have kind of gotten used to the idea of...
We're cynical.
Right, we're cynical. Yeah. We think, all right, we don't want it to be Nasir. Out of Nasir and Heather, it's probably going to be Nasir because that's just what is going to happen. Yeah. Out of Evie and Liana, Deshaun's not going to flip on Liana. We know it's going to be Evie. And it happened.
So I'm actually really curious to see this week's Ponderosas. And we're recording this right after the episode, so we haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. But I think you saw even in Tiffany's face when Nasir got voted out, she's just like, this really just happened. Like another missed opportunity. Like they took out me for no reason. Yeah, because she wants to see the people who took her out actually pay the price. And she wants to see the people who are on the bottom actually make a big move. And Nasir sat there and just let himself get eaten up in that tribal. And I think she knows at this point, like, it's done. It's done. Obviously, there could be a Hail Mary. Like, let's say Xander finds his way to the final 6, and then the other 4 or 5 people who are left fracture a little more, and then that's his way.
Or say he wins immunity, and they're forced to vote one of each other out.
It's possible, sure. But in reality, unless they turn on themselves fast, they're gonna get to the end.
And by fast, we mean next week.
It has to happen right now. Yeah. Otherwise, you're down 6-2, and like it's 5-3 right now.
Yeah.
If it goes to 5-2, like there's no breaking that up. You would need 2 whole people to break off.
If it's 5-3, you can get one get one person to flip, and then it's tied. If it's 5-2, you got to get 2 people.
And then, but that's the thing. Who would it be? So let's say. I don't know. Let's say Erica gets voted out next week, right? And you have Xander and Heather who's left. Who's breaking off and voting with them to take out 3 other people? Would Ricard and Shan move over with them and then take out Danny, Deshawn, and Liana? I could see that. Maybe.
It's not a sure thing, though.
I'll tell you what.
Still end up with Xander or Heather being voted out.
Well, no. If Shannon and Ricard move over and vote with them, then therefore, and one of Danny, Deshawn, or Liana get voted out. And look, that would be an interesting move for sure. Like, it doesn't dethrone Shan and Ricard, like, which I think we kind of want to see just for the theater of it, not because I don't want them to do well. I want to see that tribal.
You want to see the chaos.
Yes, yeah. So there's obviously I could come up with a million different examples, and we don't know what's actually going to happen until we see it, but. Something's going to happen soon, or else this is going to be a very disappointing season.
Yeah. And, it's not disappointing in terms of gameplay. It's disappointing in terms of what our expectations were. Yeah. Because they marketed this season as like a whole new season. We've never seen this before. This is like the first season of the new Survivor. And all it is just a group of people that took over the entire game and nobody trying to do anything about that. To me, it looks like the old seasons, like seasons 1 to like 15 or whatever, where a group of people, you have a power group early, and everyone else just sits back and hangs along for the ride until they're voted out.
That's I think the least engaging part of this show is when you get to that point.
Once it becomes predictable, then you're like, okay, I know what's going to happen next. It's just going to be this person, this person, this person, this person.
Yeah, look, if you hopped on board with that person, you called yourself a huge fan of them from night 1, and then you're riding the top of that wave all season. Sure, I get it could be enjoyable, but like even other people I was seeing on Twitter tonight, everyone wanted a big move, and it didn't happen.
It didn't happen,
and a lot of people are blaming Heather, Erica, Nasir for not realizing that they're making big. Well, Deshawn he's loyal to his alliance, but
he's loyal to his alliance. But at the same time, he could have done something that he was considering doing, which would have been big.
Right, and it's not that Shan isn't playing a good game. It's just that she's not succeeding right now because of her game. She's succeeding because of incompetence.
Yeah, no,
I don't mean that just to disrespect her game. It's just that. She has been kind of they did roll out the red carpet for her a little bit.
No, and we've said it a lot. She played really, really well before the merge. That was really good gameplay. Now she's kind of at the top in spite of her gameplay because everyone else is playing worse than she is.
Mm-hmm. That's it right there. She definitely peaked pre-merge. And she's riding the wave of success while everyone else collapses around her.
And nobody else is noticing it. The only person who is Deshawn, because he's the only one that's really not okay with being pushed around by her.
Yep.
And
if he makes himself too much of a target next week, then he's just going to go home.
He's going. Yeah.
And it won't even matter, right? Like, he'll be the first person who would have been willing to turn to fracture that alliance, and they'll just be like, all right, fine, get out of here, we still have 4, we don't need
and that's what they tease in the preview of next week. It's like him versus Shan battle for next week.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, if it's him versus Shan, he's not going to win that.
Unless he finds an idol. Like, do they put an idol back in because Nasir's got voted out? I think that's
true.
The only thing that could cataclysmically change what we're expecting for next week is
another idol.
There's another hidden idol. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point, because Nasir did leave with an idol in his pocket, and that's the first idol that's left the game. No one's played one yet because it's Xander and Shan. How did I forget her name for half a second? So we're just kind of waiting for something to happen.
Brad went home with an idol too.
And it went back into play.
Yeah.
So,
which Shan still has now.
Yeah. But maybe it'll happen.
Well, we'll see, right?
Yeah. But I think
it's a good place to call it a night here.
It's a good place to wrap it up. Yeah.
We've ranted and raved enough, and
I think it was good for both of us because
it's therapeutic, right?
Yeah. And if we on this video posted screenshots of our chat right now, we would not have a non-explicit rating.
And I was doing my best. I was on the Twitter account tonight, really just trying to be politically correct isn't the right word, but be diplomatic, I think.
Yeah.
To show my frustration without being like, well, F this, what are they doing? Like,
so, yeah.
For the 39 Days podcast, this has been episode 9. We're still frustrated. Hopefully we got a little different tone when we catch you again next week.